Welcome to the Saturday Night Live Afterparty. This week, we'll be discussing Season 46, Episode 7 of SNL with host Jason Bateman and musical guest Morgan Wallen. I'm Catherine Coleman, and I'm joined this week by John Murray, as well as New York writer, actor, and comedian Lanny Harms. You can connect with Lanny on Instagram at Lanny Harms. And if you'd like to connect with us, you can do so at snlpodcast.com. All right, here we go. Ooh, so after a month-long hiatus, SNL came back swinging with a strong host, plenty of holiday cheer, and some good meta fun. But before we get too far into the show, let's introduce our guest this week, Lanny Harms. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Hi.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have you. I know that you are a fantastic comedian that's just all over the place in the New York sketch scene. But why don't you tell us a little bit about your cred and what gives you the right to critique Saturday Night Live?
Sure. Oh boy. I did a lot of sketch comedy at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater in New York. I trained in sketch and improv there, and I was on a few house teams there before the pandemic happened and the theater shut down. And since then, I've been doing, like, my sketch teams have all stayed intact, and we've been doing a lot of shows on YouTube and on Twitch, which has been a lot of fun. I host Sketch Cram, which is a huge all-in-one-day sketch show that we do once a month, and that's a ton of fun. I've also directed for Boogie Manja, which is how I met Catherine, which was very fun. And they've also been doing shows on Twitch. And my sketch team, After School Snack, has been doing monthly shows. And we also were a house team at UCB, and now we're an independent team doing our own thing. So I think I know a decent amount about sketch.
Yeah, just a little bit. But of all those projects, do you have anything coming up that our viewers can check out your style in?
Yes. My After School Snack sketch team has a show on December 22nd. This fall, we've been doing monthly shows for all of, like, the holidays, as like the Halloween, Thanksgiving, and we have one coming up in December for all of those December holidays. So that'll be on December 22nd on our YouTube channel, and you can find that at we actually have a URL, afterschoolsnacksketch.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to check that out. Well, I think we have some patrons to thank, right?
Yes, we do. A couple new patrons came on board, and we're very happy to have them in the mix. So shout out to Katie Spooner Hansen from Fargo, North Dakota, as well as Jordan Peterson from Beaumont, Texas. We love all of our patrons. We thank everyone that chooses to support the show, because that's what makes it possible. And so thank you for our new patrons and to all of the patrons that continue to support us month over month. Back to you, Catherine.
All right. Well, let's touch on some SNL news that we got. While we were on break, they announced the full December lineup. So next week, December 12th, we have Timothy Chalamet with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. And then on December 19th, we have Kristen Wiig and Dua Lipa, who was actually supposed to be on with John Krasinski before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So, John, why don't you tell us what you think of these announcements? Are you excited?
I like Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. I am aware of who Timothy Chalamet is, and that's as much as I know about Timothy Chalamet. Kristen Wiig, fan favorite of the late aughts. So she usually turns in a good show because they're very comfortable to just throw the ball to Kristen and let her run with her grab bag of eccentric characters. And Dua Lipa, we've seen her before on the show, so we kind of know what we're going to get. Not necessarily my scene, but I don't remember being disappointed by her last time she was on. So I'm more than happy to have a second outing with Dua Lipa. All in all, we know that December, more than anything, are our Christmas tinged episodes. So even with a Timothy Chalamet, who I wouldn't know from Adam, I'm certain that the show is going to be finding appropriately festive and heartwarming fare to regale us with. And so I'm looking forward to these next two shows.
Yeah, well, I am thrilled about Timothy Chalamet. I'm not like a huge fan of him, but like I know the following he has and just like the stories that surround Timothy Chalamet, and I'm really excited to see what they do with that persona that he has. Also, we know that Chloe Fineman has that great impression of him, so that can always be sort of a fun thing to do. And so I'm really excited to see what he does with SNL. I think that's going to be great. I love Springsteen. I know my mom's thrilled about the Springsteen episode, and she gave that love to me. And of course, Kristen Wiig. What's not to love there? So
Mhm.
I too am very excited for the next 2 episodes. Lanny, you got any thoughts on the bookings?
I mean, I'm excited for Dua Lipa. I gotta say, I love her, and I think she's
There
been
we
doing
go.
some really. She's been doing some great stuff in the last couple of months here, or like actually just throughout the last summer. She's had some really good dance hits throughout all of it. I know that it's about the sketch, but I just gotta throw it in for Dua Lipa, and Timothy Chalamet. I think that's a great get. Very exciting. A lot of people love him, and yeah, Kristen Wiig. How can you not?
Right. All right. Well, we have a pretty great December lineup, and I can't wait to get into it. And I was also super thrilled when I saw Jason Bateman. So let's start talking about Jason Bateman. Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right. For the cold open, Rudy Giuliani brings in a full cast of characters to testify on voter fraud in Michigan, with cameos from no one this week. What show are we watching? So, Lanny, how did you like the cold open?
I really liked it a lot more than I thought. I mean, I think the cold opens. I'm really happy that they didn't rely on the cameos or like the big stars to like do this. They really like went back to their cast, and that's kind of what I've been wanting them to do more of for a long time. And I hope that this proved to them that they can do that. They don't have to rely on big stars coming back for an opening like that because I thought it was a really fun, and I really love Cecily Strong in this sketch. I thought her character was so spot on in the way that it's so hard to do these characters that are just like how do you make fun of more of how they are than how they already are, Like they're already
Right.
like that's the thing about this news cycle is it's so ridiculous already. How do you make fun of it? And I think she found a really fun way to latch on to those weird, confusing ways of talking and like roll it back into like explode it into a really funny character. I really, really like that. So
Yeah.
I was a fan. I did not know about the farting in the original. It wasn't until later on in the show for Weekend Update when they said that Giuliani was actually farting during this hearing. So when I first watched it, I was like, ugh, that's a pretty low hanging fruit there. You're just going to have him fart. Boy, do I feel stupid now. Like, oh God, yeah, I don't know how
Right.
you would have made that any more ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, this was fun. I was fortunately with someone that was like, he really did that. And I was like, of course he did. Um, but this sketch was made for Cecily, right? I'm so thrilled that her sitcom wrapped so that she was here for this episode to play that character because
Mm-hmm.
leading up to the show, when people were sharing that clip saying like, can't wait to see what Cecily does with this. So they had to hit this new story, and I'm glad they did. And I think they had some fun with it. We had some good jokes. I thought Cecily did great. Heidi was great. We got to see Lauren Holt with her first live from New York, which is always such a nice moment. But it's also sort of hurt by that news story in a way because in the scale of 2020, it's not a huge story, right? So the sketch can sort of easily get lost and be a little bit more forgettable just because this news story wasn't, Donald Trump blows something up. So that's sort of kind of a thing here, but I thought they had some fun with it and I enjoyed it. It just wasn't a huge home run. John, how'd you feel?
I was not loving it, to be perfectly honest. It gets 1 gold star for being cameo free and creating some space for, a featured player that who doesn't love seeing a featured player get to chime in for the live from New York moment. So it was kind of SNL's to lose in my opinion, but I felt, by the end of it that it was just sort of mocking without any clear objective or an idea of what they wanted to say about it. Right? Like they're lampooning the people, the parade of idiots that are testifying. But other than just, making fun of real life characters like Giuliani, is there a story here? Is there anything underpinning it other than this is the event of the week? So we're just going to walk through what we saw on CNN note by note and skewer anything funny that happens. Now, I mean, Giuliani farted. You would think that that would be just comic gold. And, they certainly took a swing at it. I didn't feel like there was a whole lot that was inspired in the final equation with this.
I think that's totally fair. Let's move on then to the monologue where Jason Bateman recalls his last visit to SNL when he was attacked by a monkey. Lanny, did you enjoy the monologue?
I thought it was fine. Like, I don't know. A cute anecdote. It would be a really good story to tell, like, on your first day back at SNL after it's been 15 years. So I'm sure he said this story in the room and they're just like, okay, let's go with it for the monologue.
Right.
It didn't look like he was in a lot of danger. And the monkey was cute. Yeah, I was just like, okay. After it was over, I was like, all right.
Right. Yeah, it's not like the finest piece of stand-up that we're gonna see, right?
Right.
It's Jason Bateman telling a story, which I liked because I adore Jason Bateman. I think he is so fantastic, and I think he has such a fun, unique way of playing voice of reason characters, and that's why I was excited for this episode. And so the monologue, yeah, it was a fun story. It was delivered well, but there weren't a ton of punchlines to it, right? They sort of drew it out and let that sort of drama marinate. And that was good, but I can see wanting a few more jabs in there. It wasn't a constantly laughing monologue. But I thought overall it was a win for me, but that might just be because I was so excited about it being Jason Bateman. John, how about you? Was it a win?
I thought it was slow to get rolling, but I really appreciated the final like 1-2 punch that he came in for a landing with. Just we had to put the monkey down. Lessons need to be learned. Like that little bit of, dark comedy just layered on top at the end, I think salvaged it because it did come out a little dry. He is a pro at being the straight man, the calm, even keeled character. And that's kind of what he was presenting. He was presenting Jason Bateman as we knew him from Arrested Development, or, he was doing his shtick. And the problem with that is it is kind of just low key. He just doesn't, he's not the crazy person in the scene. So he had to get to the point before there was any point to this monologue. I liked the point. I thought it really ended strong, but took a little while to get there. So won me over, but I would agree that just coming out of the gate, I just wasn't quite feeling it right from the get-go there.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's get into our first sketch though. Megan once again finds herself creating havoc at a sleepover by trying to cover up an accident she had on the couch. So John, this recurred. Did you think it was good to see it recurring? What did you think?
This is the one that you're going to have me lead off on. I so have nothing to say about this. I was just hoping that you guys would take it and run with it and I could just come in at the end and be like, ditto. But to answer your question.
I love to ruin your plans.
Yeah. I don't usually want to see a recurring sketch out of the gate, especially one where it literally is beat for beat what we saw before.
Right.
They did not reinvent anything with this. It didn't go to any new places. You even have the same solidarity moment where all the girls stand up, to back up Kate, and then she throws them under the bus. This is awkward for half of SNL's audience. The other half, I'm sure, maybe can, find some fun in maybe relating with weird situations from their childhood. That's not me. This is not for me. So I will accept that whatever you guys have to say trumps whatever I have to say. But I just am always squirming. And for the second outing of something that I've seen before, I didn't get much mileage out of it.
I think that's fair. My first thought was, I really liked the first one of these. It didn't strike me as a recurring sketch, though. So I was interested to see what they were going to add to it. And, it's a slightly different scenario. Last time she clogged the toilet. This time she's staying on the couch. So, that was interesting. And it's always fun to see what new crazy things Megan's going to do to cover up her accident. And they added sort of this thing in where she's into the dad. That was fun. But
we've seen that done better by 80, though.
This is true. But ultimately, I don't feel like this added a ton to the original outing, but I had fun with it. So I'm not getting to a point in the show where I'm like, oh, this is just going to be mediocre. I'm still feeling pretty good and thinking, yeah, that was fun. Let's see what's next.
Sure.
So, Lanny, was it a win for you?
No. I'll just say my opinion right away. But same with this one. I didn't know. I missed the first version of this. So I didn't realize it until after I had watched the episode and was kind of looking up on your notes and everything that oh, this was a recurring. So then I went back and saw the original. And I think that one did hit pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying, John, this was a beat for beat, exact same sketch. Yeah. And before I even went back and looked at that other one, I was analyzing what went wrong with this particular sketch. And I was since I had no idea about the other one, when Jason Bateman came out and started telling that story, I was like, oh, this is a really fun use of Jason Bateman's deadpan straight manning.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought what was going to happen was that he would just continue telling this really crazy story as it escalated more and more and more. And we could just have it be a fun showcase of him doing that with their reactions and then just let the story speak for itself. And then Kate could come in at the end and that would be a lot more impactful. And so that would have been a really funny sketch that I would have enjoyed seeing and to have it just be a Jason Bateman vehicle. Now knowing that this was actually a Kate McKinnon vehicle the whole time, because I really felt like the energy just depleted once she got there. It's okay, now we know who did it, and now we know that it was her, and she's going to act coy for the rest of the sketch. And now we're forcing in a threesome, and it was just that felt like a grab to try to make something funny because the sketch wasn't funny yet. So let's add another layer of something weird. So yeah, I felt it was in the ending where they all get together and say, no, it was me. It was just well, this is sloppy and weird. So yeah, I again rewatched the first sleepover. I thought that was a successful sketch.
In the first one, if I remember correctly, there is longer before Kate enters, or am I misremembering? Okay.
No, you're right. I did. I rewatched it, and it. The other thing that works so well about it is that it starts in a very grounded place of just clogging the toilet, and then doing sort of those things that you normally do when you clog it, adding a bunch of toilet paper, and then adding the weird stuff onto that with the duct tape, and then with the matches and stuff. It built in a very pleasing sort of way, in a very satisfying kind of way. This one, she threw the cushion into my washing machine right away. So it was already this is a wild story, and there's nowhere to go after that.
Right.
Lanny, you just proved your worth. That was incredibly astute, and I agree with everything you just said.
All right. Well, yeah, I think we've covered Megan pretty well. So let's get into our first pre-tape, Stu, which is Eminem's Stan, but with letters to Santa, with a cameo from none other than Eminem himself. So Lanny, did this one lift you up? Was this one a bigger win?
I think it was a bigger win. I have notes.
Hit us.
So I just think it was a pretty decent Stan parody. Stan was 20 years ago. So you're you're going to have the question of why are we doing this now? And I don't think they were successful in answering that. But if you have Eminem saying he wants to do this, great, make it work. But I think that the thing I would have wanted to see from this sketch, it's Stan writing, or Stu, I guess, writing into Santa's workshop. So if we wanted to really make this parody work, as an evergreen parody, then have it be mapped more closely onto the original Eminem song of him being obsessed with Eminem and wanting to be Eminem, Now he's running to Santa. Wouldn't he do that same behavior, obsessed with
Right.
Santa, wanting to be Santa? The
Yeah.
PS5 kind of felt like, is this a backhanded commercial for a PS5? Is he a grown-up who like doesn't know that, he hasn't let go of Santa or whatever? Like all of these questions didn't really get answered for me. And it just kind of felt like we weren't going anywhere and I didn't see heightening in any way. So yeah. I ended up just thinking about all the ways I would have liked the sketch to go differently, because I do think that the lyrics were well written and I think it was well executed and well performed and well shot. But there's just content wise, we really could have made stronger choices.
Fair enough. I thought this was brilliant.
Okay.
I loved it. Yeah.
Let's have a back and forth.
I thought it was a pretty inspired choice, actually, to take Stan, but make it letters to Santa. I guess for me, because I grew up in the time that song was popular, I didn't need a ton of context. I was just fine to roll with it. So I just was, as soon as we see Pete walking down the stairs with the bleached hair, I was like, oh, yes, I'm here for it. I'm ready. And then they came with some pretty well-written verses, and like, that's not easy to do. So props to Stephen Castillo and Dan Beulah. They wrote it, and I thought did a pretty phenomenal job, nailing those verses in that parody. I thought Pete actually came through with a pretty breakout performance. I'm not always the biggest Pete fan, but he really did a great job in this. And I mean, this sketch had everything. It had Bowen as Elton John. We got Kate doing who is in the original song? Dido. And Pete doing good. We got Stan. I was having a really good time with it. And I thought this was really amazing. So I see your point though. But I mean, for me, I didn't need a ton more context to it. I was happy to roll with it. So John, be the tiebreaker.
Am I the tiebreaker? I'm actually going to split. I'm going to split the difference because I agree with you, Catherine. I think that this was an inspired idea. I think taking Stan and reappropriating it with a festive theme already, you've got something to work with there. The letters, that's already kind of the structure of the video, the back and forth. So I liked all that. And, I had enough context for Stan to know what I was seeing. The big thing that I thought was a real win for it was the rhyming structure, that complicated Eminem rhyming structure, and how beautifully they were able to follow it and make lyrics that sounded organic and well developed. Like, it doesn't sound like they were shoehorning in words that just syllabically shouldn't work. It felt good musically. So it had a lot working for it right out of the gate. And then we get about halfway through and I felt like the joke ran out of steam. I love Bowen, and I love Bowen as Elton John. I thought there's a really fun visual there. And I think in another vehicle, Bowen as Elton John could make hay. But in this, it didn't feel like that did anything wonderful for the sketch. I didn't think it said anything new or took the joke to a new place, other than we've got an impression and we're just going to throw it in because we need to pad this out. I felt like right around that point, it was out of steam and they needed to figure out a more elegant way to either take it somewhere new or get out of it. So I feel like it's kind of like a flawed masterpiece. Like, there's a lot of brilliance here, but at the same time, it's not perfect, because I do feel like I do feel like they just started to meander there a bit. Kind of cool that they had Eminem to cap it, but not a super strong capper, especially when you got to do it remotely. And it's, like it's cool to see him there kind of putting his seal of approval on it, but I didn't get much else out of it. So I just kind of feel like it whimpered to the finish line, and I would have loved to see it do something a little bit more soaring in the back half.
Yeah, I do wish they had given Eminem a little stronger of a blackout line.
Sure.
Because it's great to see Eminem come in, but yeah, it was sort of a fade out finish as opposed to a last punchline.
Right. And I also do want to reiterate that I agree with you guys on that, how well like the lyrics and everything, and how well it was executed, because that is something I don't want to be missed on this. The writers did do a great job. But like what you're saying, it did lose steam.
Fair enough. Well, let's keep on going. Cabaret shows in New York look a little different under COVID protocols. So, Lanny, what won about this one?
I think the premise was strong. I think Cecily, I think I really love Cecily in this episode. I don't know if she like had some like a nice nap or something, but like she seemed refreshed and like, or maybe I just haven't seen her in a while, but I think she really did do a great job. Um, but I think playing with the premise again, playing with the juxtaposition between a holiday cabaret setting and now you have to do it in COVID times, outdoors, and all of the issues that come along with that. Fun premise. I just don't think that they lived up to it because there was a lot of they ended up stopping themselves in the middle of their singing to talk about it, and it just seems like a perfect opportunity to have the things in that environment stop them, and then they have to deal with it. Otherwise, it just felt like we're not actually playing the circumstances, we're just commenting on them, and that's not a fun sketch to watch. It's so much more fun to see. Like we had the trash can or trash truck come in at the very end just as like a tag, but we could have used that as a beat in the sketch. Like had them singing and then just not being able to sing over the thing, you know?
Right.
So that
New
was
York
frustrating.
Sirens, you know.
Yes, New York Sirens, somebody coming on the street and trying to like take some like there's just plenty of like opportunities to play with that environment. And I just what they didn't seem to work for me.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic note in that they didn't use that circumstance to naturally move the sketch along. It felt a little contrived every time they moved to a new beat. This one wasn't a huge win for me either. I think they had some good jokes going, like you gotta buy food to drink, but we only have one hot dog. The heat lamp melting the keyboard. I think like there's some good fun stuff in here. It just never fully got going for me. So this was just sort of fine, middle of the road. Like I was having fun, but nothing extraordinary. John?
If I was gonna speculate, I think that Cecily got back into town and maybe James Anderson said, "Oh, I got it. I got something. You and me, we're gonna sort this out." So I think this is kind of an indulgence for them because we've seen a lot of these lounge act,
Right.
Guy at a piano with Cecily as the sort of like Pastor Prime musical diva character. This one, I think maybe they were going for a Liza Minnelli angle with her. We've seen these kind of sketches, and I usually feel like they're amusing because I know that they really like what they're doing. Like they're so tapped into the theater scene or the cabaret, or like they have such an affection for this type of fare that they can find the funny in it for them. But I feel like for the broader audience, and I have to put myself in that category, I think it's harder to connect with a lot of this stuff because, I can pick up on where they've got this like pithy little repartee, which would be part of like a lounge act or something along these lines. You would have the guy at the piano that's setting up the jokes for Tony Bennett or whatever it would be. Like, what you're seeing here, and they are trying to tap into that, but it's very subtle and it didn't, I don't think it declared itself loud enough as to what they were really trying to do with it. And I think what you guys are saying is great too, that if this is going to be a mashup and the environment is half of the joke, you got to use it. So I feel like either they needed to lean into what you guys would have liked to see, or they really needed to just have a much more obvious shtick that they were doing, where you understand that this is kind of, scripted. Like you think it's off the cuff, and it sort of is, but more than anything, this is what these guys do for a living. So they know how to lob these lines back and forth and have these little barbs and this, this fun little back and forth. I think that had to just be more obvious for most people. And then I think the characters maybe could have shone a bit more. That was my one thought. But like so many of these Cecily singing situations, I know she loves it, and we haven't seen Cecily all season. So why not give her one, that's just for her. I'm okay with an indulgence on this one. So I'll give it thumbs up just because, hey, you know what? We love Cecily.
Now there was a sketch, and I honestly do not remember if I remember it from being at the dress rehearsal and it got cut for time or if it actually aired. but it was from Matt Damon last year where it was a cabaret show. So it did air. Okay.
Yeah.
And they're singing, but the game is that they're singing all these Christmas songs in a really weird way.
Right.
And I thought that's what this was going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to your point, John, of that's just a little bit clearer of a game, in that you don't have to be as dialed into this particular scene to get what they're doing there.
Right.
And I think that one probably paid off a little bit more.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's get into one that maybe we're feeling a little warmer on, where 3 women take on the dreaded FaceTime with mom about not coming home for Christmas. I know that I have lived this with both my mom and my mother-in-law, so it hit home. Lanny, how'd you feel about it?
Yeah, very relatable, very sweet. I'll say I didn't find it very funny, but I found it very sweet. And I was like, after it was over, I was just kind of like, I like that they did that. Like that's nice. Like there's something very like compassionate about doing a sketch like that, because I think they did hit the tone pretty well on like that this is something we should be doing and talking with our families about, and it's going to be hard and it's going to suck, but we really should have these like tough conversations. And I think they did. Again, I didn't find it very funny. I couldn't diagnose how to make it funnier. I don't know. But afterwards I was just like, you know what? I'm sure this is actually going to like really relate. A lot of people are going to relate to it and be happy that they saw it. So I think it served its purpose.
Right. I like it when they take a nice little wholesome turn and have a sweet moment. I'm always here for that. And it's always, it's around the holidays, so we'll have it. I had a good time though. I was laughing at just the passive aggression of the moms I related to. Hopefully my mom doesn't listen. And stuff like, as fast as you ran away to Chicago is just so Hallmark mom. I thought they did a good job kind of nailing those mom characters. And I was having a pretty good time with it. So this was a win. It wasn't a laugh out loud. I wasn't feeling like I felt with Stu, but I'm still having a good time, and I thought this was a nice sketch. John?
Yeah, I don't think this one was trying to be wall-to-wall laughs. I think they knew exactly what they were shooting for with this. The joy is in the observation of, isn't this so true, of the generational divide between kids that have left home and parents that just want to see their kids for the holidays, and how you have a genuinely emotional situation this year where people may have to, think twice about that, and how parents do tend to be a little passive aggressive or try and tug on your heartstrings or give you that guilt trip. And because you're family, they know just how to push your buttons, and they have their grab bag of drama that they know how to go to in these situations. So I think the observation's fantastic. And I think the characters are well drawn. And this is one where I'm grinning end to end. Like as soon as you know the game, I was having a lot of fun with what I was seeing. I don't know if I laughed out loud, but at the end of it, I'm like, yeah, this is that sentimental, fun sort of truism sketch that we get one of every year. Sometimes they are like laugh out loud funny. The ones that Streeter's been doing every year, where it's just the torment, the agony of the holiday day, when you have a chance to observe it after the fact, after, all the chaos is over, you get to put on your rose-colored glasses. He's been doing that like 3 years in a row. So this wasn't quite one of those, but I feel like this was still fitting and kind of in that vein of just exploring family dynamics and the silliness that comes with all that. So this was a win for me. This was, I think, maybe for the night. Stu, I felt got over, but this was the one that I think I was genuinely charmed by, that was kind of pulling me back into the show.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. We get a little meta with Morgan Wallen visited by his future selves to warn that his partying will lead to a canceled SNL appearance. And you know what? I'm going to tackle this one first. As the Alabama native.
Okay.
No, I'm just from Alabama, and I think it is criminal that there wasn't a single Roll Tide to be had in this whole
Oh.
sketch set in a bar in Tuscaloosa celebrating a football game.
Oh, I thought you were going to come out swinging. Okay. All right. Just going to pander to the
I'm
the
just going
flyover
to
states.
pander to the Southerners.
Yeah.
But no, aside from that, I had fun in the fact that this was a little meta joke. I don't think it had a ton going for it outside of that. You know, a pretty standard way to heighten it with more versions of himself coming in. But none of them really added a huge new step to it. So it was fun for that meta factor, but nothing huge outside of that. So just sort of middle of the road again.
Okay.
Lanny, how'd you feel about
This is probably my least favorite sketch of the night.
it?
I couldn't figure out what was funny about it. I mean, maybe that not being from Alabama, maybe not knowing who the singer is very well, Morgan. I don't. I thought maybe people liked seeing him like acting or something. I don't know. I really could like because it feels like a really tired joke to have the future versions of yourself come in
Mhm.
and stop you, and then I didn't think that there was anything new happening or any kind of new add-on or take on this kind of tropey shtick at this point.
John, how'd you feel?
This one upset me because if SNL is going to have someone back who they canceled because of a controversy, as was the case with Morgan Wallen, I feel like you have to own your decision. Like you have to be like, you know what? We made the call. We're standing by it. But SNL seems really concerned about kind of playing both sides of the fence. They know that some people are going to be annoyed by the idea that they would have this guy back, because obviously, not taking COVID seriously ruffles a lot of people's feathers, especially right now. There's a lot of reasons to feel worked up about that particular issue. So they knew that they were going to get some blowback, and this is SNL trying to do damage control in a incredibly obvious and ham-fisted way.
Mhm.
And I just think like, you know what? If Lorne Michaels really has balls the size of Toyotas, he should have said, look, we're having the guy back. It's my call. On with the show. Instead of, let's put him out there to sort of mea culpa and, flash a grin and let everyone be in on the joke and hope that everyone can kind of embrace him, because we're sort of like quasi sort of flogging him in a very, gentle way. I don't need that on SNL. Like, book people that you're confident in having on and just let the chips fall where they may. That's my feeling. But, if people found more to like in this, I'm cool with that.
All right, so definitely not too hot on the Morgan Wallen sketch, but let's talk about the Morgan Wallen performances, where he gave us 7 summers and still going down. Now, John, judging by your face, I think you have some thoughts, so take it away.
Oh, well, first off, that previous sketch didn't put me in the kind of mood to want to, watch Morgan Wallen perform. And there's just something about that dude's mullet that just gets me stabby. Like,
I think that's fair.
I can appreciate good country music. I was raised on it. It's not really my jam, but I know good country music when I see it. And this was not that. This was middle of the road, tepid pop music with a country twang. And there was nothing memorable about these performances and nothing that I saw on that stage that made me think that this guy isn't super manufactured and, just a very safe and careful country act. And it just felt so cheap. I hate country songs that are all about talking about how, country they are, like, I wear the boots and I got a truck and I go out and we have campfires and we drink beer and we're country boys. And,
right.
it's as obnoxious to me as like a rap song where it's all just about, my rap cred. Like, I don't want songs that are just this obnoxious, resume of my cred. It does nothing for me. And Morgan Wallen did nothing for me.
Fair enough. I am not a huge country fan. I like some country acts, like I like Chris Stapleton, Sturgill Simpson, but these sort of pop country artists are not my thing. I find them so obnoxious. So I have been dreading Morgan Wallen since the day he was announced.
And then he got canceled, and you're like,
and then he got canceled. I was
I'll
so
take Jack
excited.
White. Yeah.
Right. And then they rebooked him, and I said, oh, man. So that said, I think the second song was the most pop country, terribly written nonsense ever. The first song, I couldn't understand a word he was saying, so I sort of enjoyed it because I think instrumentally it was actually kind of nice. It had a nice little melody to it. I kind of liked that. But I, like you, John, even with liking that melody, I'm like, this guy has a legit mullet, and I can't look at him.
Yeah. It's not just that he had the mullet. It's that it's like a perfectly like shaved and coiffed mullet.
Yes.
And those two ideas, like a mullet is supposed to be a statement of how little you care about your appearance. So for him to have like this man mane that obviously has had someone working on it for at least 30 minutes before he came out on stage, it's just wrong. It's just so wrong.
You offended John's mullet honor code.
Yes.
So, Lanny, how about you?
I don't really have anything new to say. I'm right with you guys. I think I probably know less country than you guys, even from what you were saying. I mean, I got into Casey Musgraves with her that album she won with a couple years ago. Great. I can get into country if it's genuinely great. But this did nothing. I thought it was so boring. I thought he was so boring. It just sounded like, when I say, oh, country's never been my thing, it's because I think of people like this.
Right.
Even like as he was performing, I love a good musical performance. I truly love it. Also why I'm so excited for Dua Lipa in the next couple of months or weeks. Because she is such a great performer, and to really have that energy and to like think about how to express a song visually is very impressive. And to just kind of stand and sing and mug to camera is the most boring thing you can do.
I mean, this guy is the Bo Burnham country song parody incarnate. So,
all right, are we done flogging Morgan Wallen?
We can let the guy go now.
All right.
He blew his second Yankee chance. So let's get into Weekend Update, where Jost and Shay discuss Trump's increasingly ludicrous voter fraud accusations. Lanny, did you think this was a strong Weekend Update?
Yeah, I liked the jokes. I was surprised by how much I enjoyed. Usually I prefer the this interview segments and the guests more than I do the topical jokes by Colin and Michael. But this time I thought they were kind of on a roll. There was like some really funny ones, like the 102-year-old woman.
Oh boy, a 102-year-old woman from New York who survived the 1918 Spanish flu has now beat coronavirus twice. But sadly, she was no match for my car.
It's really, honestly, it's not my humor. So I'm not the biggest Weekend Update fan just generally. I think it's kind of like mean, sarcastic, and like winky. And usually not my taste, but for whatever reason, I was into it this time.
This was a really strong showing for Jost for me. Shay had some good stuff too, but I thought Jost had some really good stuff with the way he just tore apart every one of Trump's new claims, and then the "you is need to go." I thought that was pretty fun. And yeah, so it wasn't the strongest update of the season. I think they've had some better outings, but like we've been saying all season, it's that Jost and Shay are pretty much always on at this point. So there's very rarely any time where you're like, no, this wasn't for me. I had a good time with it, John, what'd you think?
Feel very similar. I thought this was all competent. There was a few jokes that genuinely got me, like the 102-year-old woman. So it definitely had enough moments to make me feel like, yeah, this was solid. The political stuff, I think, was competent enough, but I'm so burnt out on all of that at this point. I don't want to even try to absorb it. but that's my liability. That's not their liability. The jokes themselves were all perfectly good. So I can't fault what they were doing or their delivery or their energy, or there was nothing wrong with this. Like you said,
Mhm.
Catherine, not a tops for the season, but perfectly fine. I think it was
Yep.
buoyed by the features though.
Yeah, well, let's talk about those features then. The first one, Pete offers his thoughts on some Staten Island protests and also the Pete Davidson branded vibrators. So, Lanny, how'd you feel about this appearance from Pete?
I didn't want to go first on this one just because I really, okay, like I said, not a huge Weekend Update fan. And the thing I really don't get the most are these Pete Davidson interviews that aren't a character. It's just Pete Davidson getting interviewed by them.
Right?
I don't get it. I don't get what's it like. Let's just take a few minutes and just like, let's laugh and think about how funny Pete Davidson is. I thought the vibrators was funny. Is it real? I don't know.
It is.
I don't know.
So it is.
It is.
I
It
guess,
so
I guess
is.
so. That's very funny. That's very funny. I mean, he is charming, and he does have like that Staten Island connection that he can speak to and make some of the jokes that he was making that other people
Mhm.
probably couldn't.
Mhm.
And that is refreshing in a certain way. Yeah, it's just not my cup. I don't know. I just don't
Right.
get it. I'd rather have a character come in
Mhm.
than
So,
just talk to
are-
someone as a person.
do you think you don't like it because you just prefer characters, or are you also just generally not a fan of Pete's stand-up act?
I mean, he might not. I think he's not my type of humor. I think that's probably a lot of it.
Mhm.
I think I do generally just prefer characters, and I prefer to have an interview where we're playing off of an idea and we're like, just like a sketch, like we're going back and forth and escalating and exploring and having fun like that. Yeah, if I wanted to see a Pete Davidson interview, I'd look up his late night interviews, or
Fair
I'd just
enough.
check out his stand up. I
Yeah.
guess that's me.
Yeah.
That's me.
Hey, you are entitled to those thoughts. This, in addition, I don't think this was Pete's strongest appearance. I was having fun with it because I always like when Pete comes out and ribs on Staten Island. My favorite Pete feature was a few years ago when he did a whole bit about how Staten Island loves Jost and hates
Mhm.
Pete. And that is just, I think, some of the best stand up I've seen from Pete. So I was excited about this one when it got that Staten Island set up. And I think this was fine. I was having fun with it, but it wasn't his best material. It was nice how they let him weave through a bunch of topics and kept circling back to the vibrator. It was kind of fun to see how they were going to tie it back. So yeah, kind of middle of the road, but overall I would say it was more of a win than not for me. So John, tiebreaker again.
This was fine. It wasn't exceptional. It's not the best thing we've ever seen from Pete, but he seemed like clear-headed enough to really deliver this one. There's sometimes where he gets out there, he's got a really
Mhm.
inspired idea, but he's super fumbling. It's like he hasn't quite figured out the right way to deliver the joke, or just, the right
Mhm.
approach for it. So it feels like he's workshopping it live on air. This didn't feel that way so much. This felt like, sure, it's pretty easy material, and it wasn't hard hitting, or it wasn't fearless or dangerous or anything that we're ever going to be thinking about again. But for just fun, lighthearted back and forth that was competently delivered, it's perfectly fine. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, well let's get into our next feature. YouTube movie reviewer Bailey Gizmert gives commentary on some really, really old movies. So, John, I know you love Heidi, and I know you love this character, so I'll let you go first.
I do. It is my favorite Heidi character, and I always enjoy seeing it back. I do like that, even though we understand the basic framework of this sketch, they continue to fill it out with things that keep it just a little more inventive. Um, it doesn't feel quite as much paint by numbers as like maybe Jacob the bar mitzvah boy, or the little, Vanessa's little newsy kid. Um, it, it still has a little bit of unique flavor each time she comes out. The things that she's concerned about, um, the the things that she doesn't understand about movies, and how she gets so easily offended. I just find the character endlessly amusing, and I'm just gonna put the little asterisk up there for everyone. Yes, I'm biased, but I love Bailey Gizmert, and I was happy to see it.
Fair enough. I'm a big Bailey Gizmert fan as well, and I thought this was a fun way to use her in a time when we're not getting a lot of new movies, to have her review sort of older stuff and take that line of "you can't do that anymore" from
Right.
a thing that we usually hear from like a baby boomer who's referencing some terribly racist thing that happened. They're like, "Well, you can't do that anymore," and you're like, "Yes, you can't. You're right." And this was in sort of from the Gen Z standpoint of like, "Oh, I can't believe they did that," and I thought that was really fun. So I was having a good time with this, and I thought it was a great addition to the Bailey Gizmert saga. So big win.
Yeah.
Laney, how'd you feel?
This is my first introduction to the Bailey Gizmert character, and I thought it was really fun. I thought she was she had really good, strong, mannerisms and, like, tics that she had, like, with her hair and all of that, which, like, is not new to you guys, but it was really fun and really refreshing to see, and, I thought her back and forth with Michael Che was really fun. It did feel like it was losing steam, like, a few times, and, it did feel a little long, so that was my only real bump there is it was kinda like the same thing over and over again, but it was really solid choices and really solid, like, little ticks that, like
I think that's fair. And I think what you said too is sort of on the pacing is a good note because they spent a while on Forrest Gump and then did a little speed run of
Yes.
American Beauty.
Mhm.
So I definitely see your point there. But yeah, I'm glad that you enjoyed Bailey Gizmert though. Let's get into the back half of the show then. Santa Village's COVID precautions turn out to be a huge liability. Lanny, did you enjoy this physical masterpiece?
I do love good physical comedy. I thought the physical falling gag was really effective up top, really funny. Um, I just don't think they, heightened after they did that initial one, and I think there was a lot of fun that they could have had. Um, I don't mind a sketch where you know that the funny thing is just that they're gonna fall again, because you can have a lot of fun with that. You can do it in, like, other kinds of ways, like, whether it be, like, escalating, like, how hurt that they're actually getting inside the bubbles. Like, if they start, like, breaking all of their limbs and, like, things start falling off or something, like, there's places to go. It's the end of the show. You can really go to crazy town at the end here. And or you could even escalate all the ways in which these balls like fall and go into other places and ruin them all. And I thought that, I mean, that might be hard with the limitations that you have on SNL, but like they've done things where you can like go explode out into like little clay animation or little animated things and like
Sure.
just kind of like go crazy, have fun. Like with these, like there was just so much you could do. And I thought it was so funny to just watch them fall the first couple of times. And then we just didn't like have as much fun as we could have with it. There was a lot of potential there. Yeah.
Yeah. I love a good fall joke. I could watch people fall down all day long. So I had a good time, and I did think that they did try to add a layer, and I think because it can be really easy to just let the whole thing be they fall down over and over again. But I did see that they were adding in this layer of sort of peppering in these details about the deconstruction of their marriage. And that was just like a fun little sub game they were playing. And that sort of helped it heighten a little bit and change for me. And so I felt like that kept it from getting so repetitive that I was like, writing it off. So I had fun with this one. And then at the end, when they rolled over Mikey, you can't beat that for me. That's pretty funny. So, I'm biased towards falling down. So there's that. John, what did you think?
I think the best part of this sketch was underbaked. And you touched on it a little bit there, Catherine, where there's some back and forth between them where they're revealing how strained their relationship has gotten and it's complicated. And then at the end, it's kind of lost in the noise of the scene, but they have a slight reconciliation where they're almost like reaching to touch each other between the bubbles. And there was something there that they were just starting to reach for that really could have been a much more satisfying core for this sketch. So if it's just going to be the goofy gag of destroying the set with the balls, great. But I was finding that was running out of steam pretty quick for me. If they had really figured out how to mine that idea that they just started to touch on and take that somewhere great, then I would have been applauding the sketch. I feel like maybe they just started to scratch the surface there and didn't have time to really flesh that out. My only other thought on this one is that I think we might be seeing some of the liability of having a sparse audience. I feel like a lot of what we saw tonight, though some of it is middle of the ground material, I feel like it would have been more fun if it wasn't obvious that the audience was cashing out on it. And I feel like about halfway through this, it was starting to feel awkward for the audience. I feel like I was just hearing a real lack of energy. I feel like the audience was kind of like sucking the energy out of it in a way. So that's just the nature of COVID SNL maybe, but I was picking up on that. I feel like I was feeling how much the audience was starting to wonder if it was going to go anywhere else, or, it seemed like the laughs were a little more forced.
Yeah, that's what I was, where the sketch ended, I feel like could have been beat too.
Sure.
Like that there's just like, even with the relationship stuff between them, like it was like they really were getting somewhere by then, and then falling over Mikey, like all of these things, like they could have been playing together with and just escalated more. It did feel like they didn't really quite know where they were going. And I feel like, just to touch on the audience thing too, like especially with physical comedy, and having been like an actor on a stage with physical comedy, if you're not getting a kind of reaction, then you don't know what people are liking. And then like, that's also the fun with having like a weird falling over sketch. If people are liking the falling over, then you can just do a quick fall over again. And then you're like seeing everyone laughing, and it's just like this intoxicating kind of energy. And the actors can really start to play with that and do things, and just not improvise so much because it is a sketch, but you can play. And it didn't feel like we were able to really do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird energy with this one.
I think those are killer points. Let's get into our last sketch of the night, where Brian is the guy who always
kills the bit, kills the bit, kills the bit.
So Lanny, how'd you feel about this one?
Up top, I was like, kind of like, oh God, this is so like meta and like joking about joking. I was like, I'm so sick of it. But by the time he gets the bit back, like I killed the bit, and then I was like, wait, this is actually very fun. And then the last blackout line, like for a show that had really weak blackout lines, I thought they nailed it finally.
Yeah.
And it was really, really fun. Yeah, I found myself for really like kind of at the beginning kind of annoyed and like, this isn't my thing. I was surprised at how much I was like enjoying it as it went on. Like, I don't think it was necessarily a very well-written song or a very great like melody or anything like that, but something worked for me by the end. And I can't tell, you just got to trust your heart with these things, because it just, I think they surprised me in ways that I wasn't expecting. So, yeah.
Laughter is surprise, right? So that's what matters.
That's right. That's right.
This one, it was fine. I think the production on it was really, really good. They went all in with the sad clown, and the part where they had spotlight on Kyle, and then the guys would sort of sing the echoing parts. I thought that was a really fun way to direct that little bit. So the production was really good. I think the joke of it, I enjoyed. It was maybe a little long for me, but the main thing here is I think this sketch just isn't quite my sense of humor. So it wasn't for me, and that's fine. So there's nothing wrong with it. Like, I don't have any strong critique on it. It just wasn't for me, so I didn't love it. But I think the sketch itself is fine. So, yeah. John?
I did love it. I thought this was really good. Maybe it's because I can feel times where I've taken a big swing with a joke and completely missed, you misread the room, or you just come in a little late. It's the it's the George Costanza jerk store joke. If you guys know Seinfeld, right?
Yep.
Like
Mhm.
you figure out the zinger like 30 seconds too late, but you know that it's so good, you got to figure out a way to get it in. And
Yeah.
by the time you get it out, everyone's moved on. I like that. I think it's a very specific thing to find some comedy in. And I think this is what Kyle does well. And I love it when a pre-tape like this cuts through, because this, I'm reasonably confident, was something that they shot several weeks back. I know
Mhm.
I've seen the set. So I think this was cut from a previous episode, and maybe they just had a little bit more time to edit it after the fact to just tighten it up a bit. But I felt like it was pretty strong for such a specific, simple joke that you wouldn't think would have amazing places you could go with it. I feel like they found everything I wanted to see from it.
Alright.
I want to also just piggyback on that too, because through talking out, I'm remembering like what made me like it so much. I think the pieces that they set up in the beginning with him going into this big flowery place of like, this is his sad
Mhm.
place where he's just like, he can't win. And then when he wins so barely, just by getting just like a pity
Tepid,
laugh,
yes, yeah.
essentially. Yeah. It's like, okay, that was pretty good. And then he can be surrounded by all of that and enjoy now
Yeah, that's
and
all he
like
needs.
find yeah, that's like that huge amount of joy for just such a small little softball that he got. I think that was the turning point for me, that I was
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, this is actually a very fun take on a very specific, observation." And yeah, and the fact that it
Yeah.
escalates to him just getting so confident he throws a can at at Pete Davidson's face.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, maybe I don't like Pete Davidson and I like that moment so much. I don't know.
Well, good. Good capper then.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Let's get into our overall ratings and thoughts. First up, we have moment of the night. Lanny, what would you say was the moment?
Oof, moment of the night. I Geez, I'm just so stuck on Pete Davidson getting hit in the face with a can. I don't think I laughed that much. And I have to say, I don't hate Pete Davidson. I don't want anyone to think, and I know he's going through a lot and, whatever. I really liked that moment. I thought it was a really strong blackout. I thought it was the strongest blackout of the night, and
Mhm.
I belly laughed and wasn't expecting it. I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah. Any moment that really gets you going and just gives you that hearty laugh is a fair thing to pick. I I had a sort of a couple things. I was thinking maybe Mikey getting rolled over, but I think if I have to truly pick a moment where I got thrilled, it was when we saw Pete walk down the stairs with the bleached hair, and I said, "Oh my god, they're doing Stan." I was so excited from that moment just to see where the sketch was going to go and if they were gonna be able to hit the height that I was hoping they would, and for me, they did, so that moment just blew me away. John, what's your moment?
Sometimes I think a joke that bombs can be a moment. We had one of them tonight. We had Jost trying to get over this joke about how a beaver moon appears roughly a month after a waxing moon. That is clever. That is really clever. And it got no love. And even Che, I think, had to like jab him a little bit for how that died. But I thought, you know what? You would think a joke like that is easy to find, but no, that's clever. And
Mhm.
I thought it deserved more love, and I laughed at it. And I just think that because it got no love, I've got to give it some love. So that's my moment.
Fair enough. I liked that joke, so I'm here for
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So let's do our best sketch. Lanny, what was your favorite?
Ah, I I think I have to say the, killed the bit. I don't know, like,
Mhm.
I know I didn't even, like, really rave about it too much in our reviews, but, like, thinking back, anytime a sketch ends in a surprising place, that's all I'm really looking for. I can forgive a lot of a beginning of a sketch, um, because if I know that, especially as, the the person making the sketch knew where they want to go. And that goes for any kind of art, like any TV show, any movie, any song. If you know where you're going to go by the end and you can achieve it, I'm always very impressed. And I
Mhm.
think that was the one that was the most airtight for me.
Yeah.
I think.
Very good. I don't think I'm going to surprise anybody by saying that Stew is my best sketch. I've already watched it like 3 times and shared it with some friends. I think it was just such an inspired choice and it was really well executed. So that's one that I think might come out of the season for me being one of the top ones. Obviously I don't know what they're gonna do for the next part of the season, but it was a pretty high point for me. So here we go. John,
I
what
can
was yours?
well, I can respect Stu. It's not my choice, but I wanted to mention something that is gonna speak volumes about just how nerdy I am. Uh, I enjoyed Weird Al Yankovic way too much as a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember one time in an interview, him explaining that he tried to do a parody of Eminem, and Eminem's rhyming scheme is so complex that
Yeah.
even the master of parody, there's no
Mhm.
one better at musical parody than Weird Al Yankovic. He couldn't crack the code. Like he just couldn't make it work.
Mhm.
So I think you really gotta step back and appreciate that they did something pretty awesome with how
Mhm.
well those lyrics fit and served the story that they were trying to tell. Nothing about it felt shoehorned, and that I think is the biggest win of that sketch. So I'll give you some, so backup on your choice, but my choice, I got to go with Brian kills the bit. The second they get to the chorus and it's kills the bit, kills the bit, I knew that I was digging what Kyle was laying down. And I think the visuals really sold it. Like to be able to peer in the mind of this, insecure boob and see his happy place. And
Mhm.
the sad clown is it there visually it's so rich. And I don't know, there was just more that was resonating with me in that quick little piece than anything else we saw tonight. So I gotta hand it to that.
All right, man. Y'all are really into that one that I straight up was just like, it wasn't for me. And
To
that's
each
what
their own.
makes the show so great.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, the MVP. Who is it, Lanny?
Cecily, I think. I mean, she was the only one when I think back to the whole show who like stood out the most, even though she didn't do anything that was necessarily like new for her or surprising. It was nice to like see her and be reminded like why she's so great because I don't know. I just always feel like for someone who's been around for so long, I still don't really understand why she's not like in movies and like
Mm-hmm.
being the leading lady of like a whole bunch of stuff that I think she deserves. Um, so I loved seeing her. I thought she did great. I had no idea she could sing that well. I love Cecily.
All right. I think Cecily's a good choice. She's been gone this season shooting a show, and I was thrilled to get her back. So I think that's a very solid choice. I'm gonna go with Pete because I think he had a really good night. Obviously, I loved Stu. I think he did a really amazing job in that. But then he also had a pretty good Weekend Update appearance, and in the bit, he did a good job with it. Pete's not always the strongest actor on the cast, but he played that little wholesome moment saying like, "Brian, it's okay. You don't have to be funny."
Mm-hmm.
Really
Mhm.
well, and I was impressed with Pete's chops there for a minute. So, I think Pete was pretty present in this episode and had some strong showings. So, MVP to Pete Davidson for me.
Respectable
John,
choice.
who
Don't
you gonna
forget
go
that
with?
Pete's been shooting Apatow flicks when
I
he's not
know.
doing SNL. So his acting chops have certainly improved in his
Mhm.
tenure on the show. I think you make a strong case. I was torn. I think there's a case for Cecily. I think there might be a case for Heidi. She was in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Not
Mhm.
necessarily stealing scenes, but for pure volume, I think that she had a good showing. Um, but yeah, you know what? Pete, he didn't misfire. Everything he did was super competent. he was Stu. Like I bought him in that role.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're right. He wasn't normally he's giggly and he can derail a live sketch really easily. And some of his stand up is a little half baked, pun intended. So yeah, to see him kind of in top form and just, I don't know, looking healthy. Sometimes
Mhm.
that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pete was doing good work tonight. I'll give it to Pete too.
Mhm.
Yeah. It seems like Pete's in a good place recently, so that makes me happy for him.
Yeah.
Good to repeat. We're rooting for you. Even though I like seeing cans thrown in your face.
Okay, well, on a scale of classic, great, decent, weak, or train wreck, Lanny, how would you rate this episode?
I'll go with decent. Yeah, I would say decent. I was like not wowed by anything, so I don't think you could make a case for it being a classic episode. Um and I thought like there was a lot of strong premises in this sketch. I don't in this show. I don't think that they necessarily like fulfilled a lot of the promises of those premises for the most part. Um, and that is a little disappointing. So I'm a little teetering on saying it weak, but I was genuinely surprised and had like actual laughter, which I've done so much sketch, I really hardly laugh out loud anymore when I watch it. So anytime I do, I'm gonna like, you know what? Props to you. I'll give it
Yeah.
a decent.
Very good. I think I was warmer on this episode than both of you, and I feel like it was a great. There were a couple sketches that I thought just didn't have anything going for them, a few that just weren't for me, and then some other stuff that was middle of the road, and a couple things that I really, really enjoyed. So I'm going to give it a great because at the end of the night when it went off, I looked at my friends and said, "We had fun with that. That was a good time."
Mhm.
And what more can I ask for? So great for me, John.
Wow. Cause after my first viewing, I'm like, that's an easy week. There was way too many misfires, tepid cold open, monologue that, built to something kind of satisfying, but was certainly not adventurous. Solid weekend update, but really middling sketch fare and a nice pre-tape at the end. And Morgan Wallen that just to me yeah, you gotta knock a mark
Let
off
us not forget
just for
Morgan
that.
Wallen.
Yes.
I already blocked that out of my memory. So
I was thinking I was coming into this, it was sealed. There was no going back. But on second watch, I found a few more things to like, when you don't have as much expectation of the show and you can just kind of focus on some of the minutia. There was some stuff that was winning me over a bit more. And then after we hacked it apart here on the cast, I think it's just barely edging itself back up into decent territory. So I'm going to land on a decent. Not a tops for the season in any regard, and a musical guest that just really put me off. But I like that Kyle stuff, and sometimes when you end the night on a high note, maybe that's just enough to pull it back up into decent territory. So yeah, I'll go decent.
fair enough. So a little bit of different opinions here, but overall, it wasn't a terrible episode. And I think we're all just happy that SNL's back for another 2 episodes. So that's
Absolutely.
that. And Lanny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I love nerding out on sketches and deconstructing them and putting them back together and figuring out what we could have done better. It's what I live for. So this is great.
Right?
I love it.
No, you held your
Awesome.
own. You held your own. There was more than a few moments where I'm thinking, oh, this chick knows what she's talking about.
Oh,
So much appreciated. Your insights were solid.
Thank you.
yeah, I've got some notes, and I'm just like, all right, yeah, Lanny's gonna have to direct my next show because these are smart things. So it was great to have you. And tell us again where we can catch the holiday show.
Yes, After School Snack has a holiday show coming up on December 22nd, and that's going to be on our YouTube channel. You can find that at afterschoolsnacksketch.com.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And thank you again. And that's a wrap. Thanks to Lanny Harms and John Murray. And thanks as well to our most generous patrons, Sam Bowers, Neil Weinstein, Justin Gardner, Carissa Eubank, and Brian Clark. If you're enjoying our show, please subscribe on YouTube or wherever better podcasts can be found. Your subscription helps us grow, and your support is greatly appreciated. We'll be back in 1 week when SNL returns with host Timothy Chalamet and musical guest Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band. But until then, this has been episode number 122 of the Saturday Night Live Afterparty podcast. I'm Katherine Coleman. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.